Oscar's Childhood Part 16. Welcome, Carrots here. In this episode, Mena is returning 5 little Sims back to their homes in Barnacle Bay. Specifically, it's Serena Abe, Goldbeard, who are teens, and 3 toddlers, Tyree Verona, Alexander and Westerley Cross. The 2 little Cross boys are brothers and they belong with Odessa Cross. Most of the worlds in this big game, in which Oscar's Childhood is now based, have a boarding school or a base camp. Occasionally they'll have both. Now Barnacle Bay has a boarding school, and that is where Mena has chosen to take her youngsters. Now there's a strange Sim wandering around. Her name is Agnes Seabottom, and according to the Sims wiki, she's a mysterious young woman who lives alone in Barnacle Bay. And I haven't seen her before, but she seems to be in some sort of military uniform. But she's having a walk around the entire building. Oh, so she wanted to increase her skills. Don't know what skill she gained. That was the tree of prosperity that she just picked a piece of fruit from. As you can see, this building is set up with lots of separate rooms, much smaller rooms, sort of a random scatter throughout the building. Now, as you know, in Chocolate Cake Island, which is where Oscar is living, there is massive lag in the boarding school lot, but the rest of the world is smooth because there's virtually nobody else living in it. Barnacle Bay is a bit different, unfortunately. It has got lag in the boarding school and lag everywhere else in the world as well. This is because I think I went a little bit overboard adding homes for my fairies in the fairy village. I've removed a lot of them, but I think I'm going to have to take a few more out before this world is going to become easily playable. So now you've had a bit of a look around the insides of this boarding school building, let's get into moving young Sims around. This boarding school has a garden, but it's reasonably small, but it's plenty big enough to teach Sims the gardening skill. I think I'll aim for this sized garden in the Chocolate Cake Island boarding school shortly. That's Serena Abe in the red top. She's going to go home first. Aliens. Didn't take long for somebody to get abducted. This is the first night in the world, and there are aliens coming to take somebody away. It looks like it's Mena coming down the steps and running out to look up at the strange lights in the sky. I think she'd know not to do that by now. Here they are. There she goes. Gone. And here she comes back again. See how they took her from up on the lot, but when they return her, it was to the road near the house. When some of the fairies get abducted from the fairy village, it's a long way from a road, and they get taken from their home, but they always get dropped off at the road, and it's a long walk home for them. I don't think she's very happy, but that's what happens when you're a Sim. Toddlers need to be taken care of. Fortunately, we have all the facilities necessary. There's 2 toddlers who are sound asleep in their cots, and little Alexander Cross needs to go into his now to have his little sleep. Oh look, Agnes Seabottom's still there. She's been rocking in that rocking chair. I don't think I have any chance of catching up with her though. She just runs away from me. I suppose that this boarding school just sits here empty when I'm playing in other worlds, and the local Sims think it's theirs to come in and take all of the fruit from the tree of prosperity whenever they want them. She might be going home now. Mena's going to have a sleep as well. I think I'll leave Agnes to look after herself. We'll take in the morning, when it's daylight, we'll send Serena Abe home, and then Goldbeard, and then I'll move the toddlers and check out the fairies, and we'll go home after that, back to Chocolate Cake Island. It's a sneak peek at the fairy village at night. I've already reduced it dramatically from what it was, but that's where most of the lag in this world is coming from. They're all lots that I've placed and built houses, and they're full of plants and decorations. That is a really big one. That's the first one I did. Most of the custom content in this world is made by Luna. That's the little fishing hole that I've got near the boarding school in Chocolate Cake Island. That one there, that's the one. This is where I made it for. And the horses in Barnacle Bay get stuck in the rocks. That would not be very good for the lag, but they don't seem to be really stuck there, do they? See all those brown dirt pathways that are going around the fences? They were there. They come with the world, and I just put little houses inside them. That big house there, that's where Nate lives Nate and Penelope with their little daughters, and I think they've got a little son as well now, baby. I placed the lots inside the squares made by those brown lines and then put fences along to make it look like there's paths, and the fairies have to walk along there because they can't walk through the fences. It's all those trees and rocks and just most of what you can see that is not from the game, from the store or from the world. Most of it's made by Luna. Some of it isn't. Most of it is. Her stuff's really hard to find now. You got to search for it. I had to download everything from a archive somewhere. It was many gigabytes worth just to find the few things I wanted. That's Barnacle Bay. The sun's starting to come up now. There's the boarding school there in the fork of the roads. Most of the Sims live in the township part of it. Just a quick look around from the aerial view. That's a huge garden at the top of the screen there. It's a community garden inside a building. And we're back down to the fairy village. Mena found the magic mirror, and now she's decided to check herself out in the big mirror in the exercise room. Toddlers and playpens again. We'll have to get them home today. Just have a very quick peek at the toddlers area in the Barnacle Bay boarding school. That archway on the left, that one there, that leads to a nice, comfortable, quiet reading room where the teens were often sitting when they were here, and the boarding school was the active boarding school. They used to go in there and read their recipes and fishing books. There's Serena Abe. She's about to go home, but she's going to feed little Tyree first. I think it's Tyree. It could be Westerley. He's found the toy box. He had to climb into it to get that toy out. Now there's butterflies down here. We'll get Serena Abe to come down here and catch a butterfly or two to take home with her. She's also got the business planner in her inventory. She picked it up back at the Chocolate Cake Island boarding school, and I took it away from her a couple of times, but she kept going and getting it again, so I've left her with it. I thought, well, if she wants it that badly, she can have it. She's a workaholic. That's one of her traits. There it is. She's got it out. She likes using the business planner. But she's got little creatures to catch at the moment. She can't go planning too many business things. But she can take it home with her and use it all she likes. I usually try to make sure that they've left all their books and things behind if I have to replace them, because if I have only a few missing, it's really hard for me to just buy the books that are missing. So I have to write them down, or I can't remember by the time the inventory loads up, and you work out what's missing. Then you get to the bookshop and you get the list of books that are available. It's like, what was missing? What have I got to get? So I try to avoid that situation by going through the inventories and making sure they haven't got any important books that they shouldn't have. Things like fishing books and recipe books and toddler books especially. So Mena's up and about, doing her duty with the toddlers. There's not much to do with them now, just make sure they're fed, looked after. That's little Alexander crossing the cot. He wants to get up now. He's hungry. Mena's hungry too. I think that's Tyree Verona in the playpen just in the front here. But I could be wrong. Once she's got all of the toddlers fed and clean, she'll be able to relax, and we won't see any more of the toddlers until they head back to their own homes. So this will be the very end of the boarding school for the toddlers. Finally, Mena gets to have some breakfast. Take the chance to have a quick look at the kitchen, because this is all you're going to see of it. The rest of the video will be returning little Sims to their homes, and then it'll be Mena going back to Chocolate Cake Island. Now here we are. Serena has been returned home, and she's sharing a house with her sister Patty, and that's Patty sitting there playing the drums. They've gone to the park. This is, if you don't have the world, Barnacle Bay, this is the park across from the City Hall. There's a fountain over there, and I can see a fairy with orange wings, and she is a tourist. She's a fairy that I made new based on another fairy from the fairy village, and she is one of the nannies at the boarding school in Moonfall Island. And here's Serena Abe at home in her, where she's moved back in with her sister. I'll just check out the house and make sure she's got everything she needs. And I think they've got a little puppy that hasn't got a food bowl, and I've fixed all that up, and then I'll go back to the boarding school. See, it's a pink house with a pink rubbish bin. And at this point I discovered that Patty's pregnant. Now we've moved on to Coral Goldbeard. She's gone to the swimming pool, which is not far from where Serena Abe actually lives. And now I've already just moved Coral back into her home. She hasn't actually gone home yet, but she's moved to the new household. She was a child when she left home. She went to the Barnacle Bay boarding school for a long time, and then she aged up while she was still there. And then when I couldn't play in it anymore, I moved them all to Chocolate Cake Island and just built the boarding school there. That's Coral's house. That's where she lives with her parents. So when Coral was able to, when she'd finished her child skills, she was ready to age up to teen. Just got her in time to do the child skills before she aged up. So I kept her there to do the teen skills. So she's been at the boarding school, one or the other boarding school, for a long time. Her parents probably thought she'd gone forever, but no, she's come home. I don't know if I'll play with her again or not, but she has enough skills now that if I do decide to play with her, I won't be spending days and weeks teaching her how to fish, garden, etc. I don't think she needs any extra facilities. Everything that she's going to need is already there. Space to place something new in that house. And that's the pool overlooking the ocean. So Coral's going home to a nice place. Julia Verona is at the Barnacle Bay Library practicing her guitar. Not sure how the other library occupants will be coping with that when she suddenly realises she's about to give birth. She rushes off to the hospital and she has a little girl. And Alexander was there as well because he is the father of all three of Juliet's children, although he doesn't live with her. Alec lives in a house with the Caliente sisters. Juliet lives with Richie Radin, who happens to be a boyfriend of Dina Caliente. I put Tyree into the house with them after swapping Alec Trabo and Richie Radin, and decided it was time for Tyree's birthday party. He's finished all of his skills and his books and everything. He lives in a big luxury house, pools, and right on the beachfront where they can see the ocean. There he goes. He's just blown his candles out. I had to add cots and things because now there's 2 babies in the house. And I thought having 2 babies and a toddler would be a bit much. And besides, I wanted to age little Tyree up anyway because he's ready to be aged up to child. I want him to be a child when I come back to play in Barnacle Bay. Now they can all go and enjoy a bit of cake. And I will move on to the next household. We just got to look at the view. When each of them goes out to a different place to enjoy their cake. I've got so many outdoor places with a beautiful view in this house, but I think Tyree chose the best one. Because look, there's a sailing ship, Dina, across the water. I've had to turn my graphics down because Barnacle Bay wasn't coping with this. I've got to do some adjustments to the world before I come back to play here for a while. At least Alec Trabo came out to enjoy cake with his little son. Juliet went to the other side of the house. Tyree's obviously hoping that he and his parents might get married one day soon. So there she is. She's gone out the back of the house. And there we are. We've got the little boy who was already here, and then she must have got pregnant again straight away and had a little girl. Now this is the Cross household. I had to bring Odessa home last night because she was out and she went to sleep on a park bench in a park. So I told her to come home to her family. She's got 4 toddlers and a baby. Now all of the toddlers have now graduated from toddler school, and I've just returned Alexander and Westerley to her, and they're sitting out there beside the letterbox. The house is a bit small, and I'm going to add a room, and the only place I can see to add it is out the front near the bathroom. But I'm also going to age up the 2 toddlers that were already here because they graduated from boarding school, from toddler school ages ago, so they should be children. But I won't age all 4 of them up to children just this time because these 2, the 2 eldest, are the ones that should go to boarding school next. And if the Chocolate Cake Island boarding school wasn't so fully overpopulated, I would be taking these 2 back to the boarding school now with Mena when she returns. But we're trying to clear the boarding school of so many little Sims to make it easier to play there. So they'll be staying here for a bit longer, but I will age them up so I remember they are children. I discovered that Odessa has the childish trait, which will explain some of her behaviour. She helps little Melinda blow out her candles, puts her on the floor, and then goes and picks up a toy and sits in another room to play. I think that might be little Kelesy there. He'll get aged up as well after his big sister gets aged up. She is actually the eldest, and he's the second eldest, so I'm aging her first. But because it's all happening straight away, they'll both be the same age, I suppose. I'll have to sort that out later on. She's got to get a bit of cake now. bit hard to sit in a lounge chair and eat cake when you're a little sim, but she's going to do it. I gave Odessa a new fridge. She had plenty of money, so I gave her some new stuff that would help her. She had a wish to buy a fridge that was more than 600 simoleons, and I got her a really good fridge and a new stove. And then I built an extra room onto the house and put 2 bunk beds in there. So now it's time for little Kelesy to age up. And once he's aged up and I've got the room fixed up for them all to have somewhere to sleep, I'll be able to go and have a look at the fairies. We'll have a quick trip through the fairy village, and then I'll send Mena home. We can start cleaning up the mess after that meteor strike. Now she's going to go off to play with the doll's house. At least Kelesy has got somebody to blow the whistles for him when he ages up. I think little Melinda is going to have a big cook chook in her moodlets because she's going to have 2 pieces of cake. She just had one, now she's going to have a piece of Kelsy's cake as well. I was starting to panic when I was playing this game earlier because when I came to Odessa Cross's house, she had 2 toddlers. No, she had a toddler. I think she had 1 toddler. And I took her off to boarding school. When I brought her back, there was a new baby in the house. And I took him off to become a toddler and learn his toddler skills. And every time I came back, she'd have a new baby. And now she's got 5 of them. See, there she is playing with the doll's house. This has got 5 cots in it. I hope she doesn't fill them all up after I take Mena home. Now I'm going to show you a few pictures of the house after I've finished working on it. There's no windows in this end of the new room because there's 2 bunk beds there and a dressing table with a mirror. Now we're at the fairy village. This is the house of Nate and Penelope, and they've got 2 little girls who have both completed their studies at the toddler school, and I'm going to age Gloria up now. I'll leave the other one because she's quite a lot younger than Gloria, so I don't want to age them both up at the same time. And I think they've got a little boy as well now. Yes, there's a little boy. But this is a big house in the fairy village on the slope. There is another big house as well, but this is on a very steep hill with all the steps going down towards the ocean. Although they don't go out past his yard, of course. That's Nate. And here comes Penelope carrying Gloria. They've all got yellow wings or golden wings, but Gloria's inherited her father's shape of wings. Her little sister's inherited mother's curly wings. There she is, just sitting down near the table. You can almost not see her. I'm not going to move the camera across in case it bounces out of the building and we miss her blowing the candles out. There we are. Candles are blown out. These little girls, they sat and worked through all of the work in the playpens and they got their charisma up to 8 or 9. But then I was wondering afterwards, it was such an effort from my part to do it that I don't think I'll do it with any other little Sims. I'll see how it happens with these 2 when they age up, how their charisma goes. And it took a long time for them to be playing with the mirror to get their charisma up so high. And of course, they have to make more friends all the time to get their charisma to continue to go up. Now there she is. Gloria is now a child. I'll dress her and do things with her next time I take her to the boarding school, I think. I thought these 2 were married, but apparently not, because I think it was Penelope was getting a wish to get married. And they've both got that stake thing in their hand, so I reset them. I don't know where that came from, or even what it is. That's their house that they're living in the foreground there. Now this is little Lydell Flower. I first discovered him sitting under the letterbox at his mother's house when I visited this world some time back. I sent him to the boarding school. This is Will, who's Lydell's father. Will is full of custom content, so he won't be ever put into my studio on the exchange. This is Tina, his mother, and she is in my studio, but the version of her in my studio has no CC. I placed her in this game, though I gave her a new custom content skin and makeup, but the version in my studio on the exchange has definitely got no custom content on her at all. Dell was already a toddler when I first found him, and I sent him to the boarding school while it was in Barnacle Bay. He was there with Gloria and lots of other little fairies. Lydell has completed his toddler training at the boarding school and he's read all his books, and he has got a very high charisma skill because of the time he spent in the playpen after making lots of little friends at the boarding school. And then I moved him into this house with his father and put his mother in with his father as well. This is the other big house that is in the fairy village, and it was built so his father could get his lifetime wish of Ark Builder. and they've still got their horses and a dog, but I've got rid of most of the small or minor pets. They've still got a few things around. Just dropped in here to see if Lydell's okay. I've already set their house up for them. There's his mother, Tina. When I first made Tina, I made her with a friend, Rose Flower, and I think I've actually got the Tina and Rose together in my studio on the Exchange. This is another one of the fairies that live in the fairy village, heading home late one night. I've given you a bit of a look at a few of the fairies in the village. Now it's time to send Mena home to Chocolate Cake Island. She'll be arriving there in the next episode, because this is very close to where we need to end this episode. No time to make a clean up after a meteor attack on a boarding school at this point. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you again in the next episode when we watch them clean up. Bye bye for now, and happy simming.